Savannah holds a large impact in history due to its amount of films, gardens, monuments, and squares. There are tourists visiting daily from around the world, and because of this, there is a constant flow of education within that small town. Not only is Savannah filled with education, but it's also filled with fun. There are restaurants and shops throughout the entire town that makes people feel comfortable and at home when visiting. There were originally 24 squares started in downtown Savannah, but only 22 stand today. The three being discussed in our presentation is Taylor, Wright, and Franklin Square. Taylor Square was created in 1851 and is the only square of many that still stands today with its original historical buildings. Franklin Square was created in 1791 and was honored and named after Benjamin Franklin. Many people did not know the true meaning or history behind this square, but it was well known as Water Tower Square. Wright Square was created in 1733 with not much history being known today. It was named after Georgia's last and third colonial governor.
The push to modern design, the debate between conservatives and progressives, and the people of Savannah's squares seem to be the center point of Walker's article. Throughout time, communities have been pushed to move forward with the appeal of modernistic design. In 1935, the civic political leadership of Savannah, Georgia, abandoned Savannah's established classical architecture to move to current design. Although James Oglethorpe's original purpose of the squares has been long debated, with some connecting them to military features, while others claim areas of rest, pleasure, and recreation. No matter the purpose, in 1935, the Savannah Evening Press announced the United States Bureau of Public Roads plan to build Highway 17 through 3 Savannah squares. These squares consisted of Franklin, Liberty, and Elbert Square. The fight about the modern world and how Savannah should adapt is deep, with the advancement of technology and the idea of adjusting to big business. Citizens in Savannah reacted to this change with two major differing views. The media characterized or stereotyped these groups as conservatives and progressives. The majority of conservatives were Savannah residents, often women groups and educated professionals. They took the stance of conserving the squares, and they fought to preserve Savannah's historical aspects. Progressives were characterized as automobile advocates and male business leaders, all who would benefit from turning Savannah into an economic space. Taking the stance of progressing Savannah was to match the coming modern world. Automobile accommodation was needed to ease travel from homes to work. Racism played a large part in this debate. When taking into consideration that West Broad Street held mostly African American residents, whereas Montgomery Street was almost exclusively white residents, the modernizing and continued building of Savannah would divide these residents and take away space that local African American church and school groups used. Eventually, in 1951, the group Preservation of the Squares of Savannah was created that handled the last major fight for the squares. In the end, citizens weighed their opinion that progress shouldn't only be measured by technological advancement, but should also include civic morals and human needs.
The rhetorical appeals evaluated in Walker's article consist of ethos, pathos, and logos. This article in particular weighs heavily on ethos and logos, the facts and logic, and Walker's credibility. Walker's ethos, or credibility, for writing this article consists of his study of the connections between architecture, aesthetics, public space, urban planning, and political power, all while pursuing his PhD at Brown University. He's written other evaluations, such as Victorian visions of suburban utopia, abandoning Babylon. The other main appeal in this article is logos, or the facts or logic. Walker focuses on the events and facts of Savannah and makes a clear association between Savannah's architectural history and modern upbringing. Although this article does not consist of a lot of pathos or emotion, because it weighs heavily on events and facts, it does not propose certain emotions onto the reader. In writing this article, Walker targets 3 groups: tourists, who could learn more about Savannah prior to visiting, as well as what landmarks they should visit and what historical significance they hold. The second group is locals to Savannah. They can learn more about their community and where they live, and ask questions such as, who are you, and who are your ancestors? The third group is history classes. While they may learn about Savannah through their textbooks, hearing evaluation from someone like Walker, who has compared and evaluated towns like Savannah, gives a more in-depth view. This article specifically gives scholarship and information to Savannah's history, as well as other cities' history that have similar aspects to Savannah, as well as Savannah's architecture and architecture in general throughout cities and landscapes. This article also goes in depth about the economics of Savannah's past, from the push to modernism versus Savannah's traditional landscape and economics.
This specific case study is about what happens when the beauty side of that debate wins out, which we can see from this article has been a debate for a long time and continues to be a relevant debate today. The city of Savannah makes a really good subject for this case study because you can see how that decision played out, what sorts of things went into it creating that decision, and then you can see the long-term effects of what that has meant for the city of Savannah, and how because it valued beauty over its progressive values, that it was able to become a city that is highly valued for research on architecture, historical architecture, how to preserve historical architecture, and it also has become a tourist city and attraction because people like to come to Savannah to see the beautiful architecture, which wouldn't have happened if instead of beauty winning out in that debate, it had been the progressive side that had won and destroyed all of the squares.